I'm Kyra Kyles, the head of digital editorial for Ebony.com and JetMag.com.
Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association.
Welcome to the latest edition of our Fast Forward series, where we talk about how to colorize TV and film.
For this discussion, we're having a conversation with executives from theatrical distribution and new media to tell us how Black content creators can expose their work to the masses.
Listen in on our discussion and then make sure to join the conversation with hashtag FastForward on social media.
How is technology helping to diversify Hollywood? What are the areas of opportunity that today's talent, young talent, can leverage to create opportunities for themselves?
Sure, so I'll jump in. I think one of the big opportunities of today with platforms like YouTube and other platforms that are out there is that you have these open platforms that are really open to anyone to be able to amplify their voice and to have a voice. When you look at a platform like YouTube, there have been many diverse creators who are really thriving on YouTube, who really found YouTube as almost like their sort of broadcast mechanism to get out to their fans and to get out to their viewers. So I'm really encouraged by that, and yeah, excited about that opportunity that we're seeing.
And I'd only add to that I think given those platforms, although I'm in theatrical, that leads, it's a pathway. It's a pathway because very often they can be discovered.
And one of the opportunities that digital really brings to the table is the opportunity to almost like build an audience and have a fan base that's subscribed to you on YouTube, or if you're on Twitter, who follow you, or liking you on Facebook, and to be able to have that captive audience that when you have the next piece of content or the next video that you're creating, you don't have to go out and find them again. You've already built that sort of house in the digital or the YouTube real estate, and you can keep building and building businesses.
And you able to leverage, kind of it as a learning, because people will quickly let you know what they don't like as well, right? So in terms of honing your craft, because it's not just enough to throw something out there because it's your idea or your experience.
And the commenters will come for you.
You're right, they absolutely will. So it's a great kind of testing ground too, and you don't get that many chances as you, as kind of as you plateau or as you kind of rise among the content ranks.
One thing that I think that is interesting and like an evolution that we're seeing in just kind of the overall ecosystem is, with television back in the day, it was really kind of like a one-way street. You had a person in front of the TV, the viewer, and a person behind the TV, the creator. In this day and age, that sort of those borders go away, and the person behind the TV, the creator, can get data. They can actually see down to like what minute did people stop watching in aggregate, or view comments and see, to your point, like, do people actually like it, or what do they want more of? I've actually seen people kind of update or make creative decisions based on the data that they've gotten, and a certain character who tended to be more popular popping in the data and then sort of reshaping what they're doing in the future.
Well, let me ask you about monetization, because I think as African Americans we're used to being the tastemakers and people follow our trends and we're very popular. But what are you seeing, and you can speak to this as well, of course, Nicole, so somebody might be extremely popular, how do they turn that into a paycheck? You mentioned the entrepreneurial aspect.
Sure. So, I'd say that there are a couple of different revenue streams and business models. With YouTube, the underlying model, or the biggest model, is advertising. So views and eyeballs watching that video and that content, YouTube will place advertising, and then there'll be a split of that ad revenue. So the more views, the more advertising revenue, and that helps to kind of continue and fuel more content. But then creators are also really using that sort of fan base and that community that they're finding and building to build other businesses as well. They're using it to launch music careers. They're using it to launch licensing and merchandising. I've seen some really interesting examples of creators on different genres, from family to comedy to just vlogging, using the footprint that they have and the popularity that they have to launch a line of clothing at Aeropostale. And when you look at the size of some of these audiences, they're massive, and creators are effectively and need to do more of that, by the way, because it's not always being done. But I've seen very successful creators use that to grow new businesses for them.
It truly sounds like the possibilities are endless, because there's so many different industries and genres that you can, launch, from makeup to food to, standard entertainment. So that was interesting when you noted that earlier.
I also don't want to, kind of overstate it. There's a big opportunity, but we're in a big business now. But it's also the early days of a big business, and I think back to what was very little at the early days of cable back in the early 70s, but that when that business model was being created, the revenue was growing and there was momentum. One of the reasons I'm so excited about this conversation and African American diverse creators getting in now is, if this is today, this business is going to grow to this tomorrow, and if we're not there in a meaningful way, then we're not going to be there when it becomes this. So it's really important for people to invest in it now.
What's it like for, in terms of African American representation? Are there more African Americans and people of color entering into this space? And if so, how successful are they?
Sure. So there's definitely a really good, healthy community that's there. Now, does there need to be more? Absolutely. I think that the opportunity with these open platforms is that anyone can build a channel, and the folks who are really, really good at it grow and can build a business. But I do think that there's more that's needed to be done. Just recently, probably around 2 or 3 weeks ago, YouTube held its first Black creator event in LA, and about 130 creators from around the country, a little bit from around the world. And as I looked at that room, it just hit me that if you aggregated all of the subscribers and followers that the audience there had, or that the creators had, you would have hundreds of millions of people who watch their content. That's the size of multiple countries. So it's a pretty potent thing, and we want to do more in that area.
Well, let's talk to Miss Nicole, because she's doing tremendous things, especially to help content creators and content creators of color among that number. So in an interview that you did with our own Gil, of course, you talked a lot about, there's all this creativity, all this excitement out there, but you stress the importance of how you package that, your marketing and your distribution. What advice would you give people that are out here with this obvious talent, how they can do a better job or a strategic job in that direction?
It's very important for us as people of color to have access to information, right? Something that I think a lot of us don't know and should is that when you're filming, so I'm talking theatrical only, I'm not talking about the other platforms, but you're filming a feature-length film. You've got this bright idea, you've got this great story, you feel it's compelling. You've got to be thinking about who that audience is, because it's not just, hopefully it's not just you, right? Who is going to be interested in seeing this story? And you have to be ahead of it while you're filming, because at the end of the day, when you have a finished product, it's not going to always end up on the path that you think it will. So when you're thinking about who that audience is, at least you're beginning to have the kind of the marketing flair, if you will. You've got to understand when you do sell the film to a distributor, or if you are forced to distribute it yourself or leverage it for other ancillary, options, you've got to be able to sell it on who that distributor is going to be selling it
So
to,
you need a
right?
hook.
So you've got to have, and I often call it a hook, but it's a little more than that, right? No matter how good a film is, if no one knows it exists, it's not going to do any business. No one cares, right? So being thoughtful about that is one key part. And even if you're not going to do the marketing, you should begin to understand that, because that's what's going to sell people on your product, as much as them watching it and saying, oh, this is fascinating and I know what to do with it. The second piece is the distribution. There are a number of platforms, obviously, which I find to be fantastic. I don't see them as threats. I actually, especially when you talk about folks who don't have as many options yet, right? But the distribution piece, unless you know the business and make it your business to understand what different people are, what studios are out there at festivals buying films to distribute. They're acquiring, just like some of the smaller distributors. Being able to make a smart deal for yourself and not just let the agent do it for you, and understand that some distributors really know how to work with certain genres better than others. Some are going to make deals where they get paid first. Most will, where they get paid first and you don't. And so some filmmakers won't see a dime, or some won't see them for many years. So understanding what it is that you ended up with, because we all have our babies, right? Some are prettier than others. In this field, some are prettier than others. So when you've got a real pretty one, you got to make sure you know what you have, so you could leverage that when you're negotiating, or when someone's negotiating for you on what's going to happen with it and what you, in terms of what you're going to require. So marketing and distribution are just as important as the film itself. It's not enough to just get it done and throw it my way and say it's done, hey, play my film. It's not how it works. And I'm sure with other platforms, similarly, the content they deliver, they're going to want to know what else.